Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Unlimited Podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jamie.
We are diving deep into a topic that affects, every single one of us.
It really does.
How we build habits, why we sometimes feel completely drained by the end of the day, and the surprising truth about the difference between motivation and discipline.
Yeah.
If you're listening right now, you definitely know the feeling. You start a new gym routine, you promise yourself you'll study more, and then,
Boof.
poof. After a week or two, the whole routine just vanishes.
It's an almost universal experience. And we always blame ourselves, right? We think, oh, I just lack willpower, or I'm not committed enough.
Exactly.
But what this deep dive proves is that the problem isn't usually you. It's the system you're using.
Yeah.
We're looking at the actual scientific design of our daily lives and understanding why just trying harder is often the worst strategy for long-term consistency.
So it's not about grit, it's about design.
The sources are absolutely clear on this. The secret to being consistent is making the right actions automatic.
And we've gathered some amazing sources today. We are pulling insights from behavior scientists like B.J. Fogg, who created the Tiny Habits method, and also Roy F. Baumeister, who did this pioneering research into willpower depletion and what happens when your brain just gets tired.
Our mission here is to move past that idea of just try harder and learn the mechanical tricks to make our brains work for us.
Instead of constantly fighting against them.
Exactly. And before we get started, please remember to subscribe to the English Unlimited podcast and like this episode.
Yeah, it really helps us bring you more great learning material and more of these deep dives every week.
It really does.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole idea of consistency. We always start with motivation, don't we?
Always.
We wait for that spark or that, emotional high to finally start exercising or learn a new language. But the first, most fundamental insight from all our sources is that willpower and motivation are, well, they're completely unreliable.
They're so unreliable. Creating new habits is primarily a matter of design.
Design, not desire.
That's the key takeaway right there. Motivation is temporary, it's a feeling, it comes and goes with your mood, your energy levels, everything.
Totally.
The real long-term goal for consistency is to reach something called automaticity.
Automaticity.
Which just means the action happens without you even having to think about it. And this isn't just a psychological trick, it's deeply rooted in our biology, specifically in a concept called synaptic pruning.
Synaptic pruning. Okay, that sounds really complex. Almost like gardening for the brain or something.
I love that comparison. Gardening for the brain is perfect.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what is that process and why does it matter so much for our daily routines?
Okay, so think of your brain. Synapses are basically the connections between your neurons. They're the pathways that information travels along.
Got it.
When we're very young, we have this huge, messy jungle of pathways, way more than we need. As we age and learn, the brain becomes ruthlessly efficient. It looks at the pathways we don't use, ones we forget or ignore, and it prunes them away.
It just cuts them off.
Yeah, like trimming a dead branch off a tree. But, and this is the crucial part, it strengthens and reinforces the pathways we use frequently. It makes them thicker, faster.
So if I start practicing my Spanish vocabulary every single morning, I'm literally physically changing the structure of my brain.
You are.
I'm making that specific action path wider and faster. It's a literal neurological upgrade.
Exactly. Think of it like paving a road. At first, your new habit is a muddy, bumpy path. It takes a lot of mental energy, a lot of cognitive effort to travel down it.
Right, you have to really focus.
But every time you repeat the behavior, it's like you're laying down more concrete. It gets smoother, faster, and more energy efficient.
And the brain loves efficiency.
The brain is always looking for ways to save energy. And that drive for neural efficiency leads directly to these hardwired, easy habits that require almost no conscious thought at all.
It is such a powerful foundation. And this biological reality is what the behavior scientist B.J. Fogg built his whole Tiny Habits method on.
Yeah.
He realized that if the brain favors efficiency, then we should start so small that the path feels easy from the very first day. And he said the most crucial piece of information, the trigger word, is just one simple word: after.
The after concept is the anchor. It's everything. New habits fail because they don't have a clear cue or a clear trigger.
They just float around in our day.
They do. Fogg noticed that we already do hundreds of things automatically every day, like pouring coffee or brushing our teeth. These are already paved superhighways in our brain. By defining precisely what your new behavior comes after, you're basically splicing it directly onto an existing reinforced neural highway. You're using the momentum of an old habit to start a new one.
So the trigger can't be something vague like when I have time or sometime around 7 p.m.?
No, never.
It has to be physically connected to a specific, non-negotiable routine, something you do every day without fail.
Precisely. And his method simplifies this whole process into 4 non-negotiable steps. First, you have to pick new behaviors you actually want to do.
But not things you think you should do.
Right. If you're relying on external pressure or guilt, your motivation will be too weak to even start paving the path.
Okay, so you have to want it. What's second?
Second, you make the behavior really easy to do, so tiny it almost feels ridiculous.
Like embarrassingly small.
Yes. Third, you make sure there's a crystal clear prompt, that after moment we just talked about.
And the fourth step. This is arguably the most essential one for the biology, right? You have to find a way to feel good immediately after doing it.
Immediately.
Why is that instantaneous emotional feedback so crucial? What's actually happening in the brain there?
Well, you're tapping into the brain's reward system, and that system is centered around a chemical called dopamine.
Ah, dopamine.
Now, dopamine isn't really about pleasure itself. It's about seeking and learning and anticipation.
Yeah.
When you complete a tiny habit, let's say it's just 2 push-ups, and you immediately celebrate or feel a sense of accomplishment, even if it's just a tiny internal yes, that chemical reward tells your brain, hey, this sequence of actions, this cue routine reward loop, this is valuable, save this pathway.
It's like putting a little gold star on that neural connection.
It is. That immediate, tiny chemical reinforcement is what solidifies the synaptic pruning. It's what hardwires the habit. If the reward is delayed, like if you wait till the end of the week, the brain doesn't connect the positive feeling back to the starting action.
That makes so much sense. And it leads directly to this idea that success makes tiny habits grow naturally.
Yes.
But why floss only 1 tooth? Or do only 2 push-ups? I mean, as a beginner, I would definitely feel silly doing just 2 push-ups.
I know, it feels counterintuitive. But in those early stages, you are only building one thing: automaticity.
You're not building muscle strength.
No, you're not building proficiency yet. You're just building the routine. If the behavior is painful or hard, or it requires a ton of willpower, you're introducing friction, and the brain avoids friction at all costs.
So if I try to start by flossing all my teeth, and it takes 5 minutes, one busy night, I'll just skip it.
And the neural connection weakens. But if you start with just 1 tooth, your success rate is 100%. The habit takes, 5 seconds?
Right. And once that automatic path is paved from the cue of after brushing my teeth to the routine of floss 1 tooth,
Yeah.
then the habit grows on its own.
Then you find yourself thinking, well, I'm already here. I might as well floss all of them. The hard part, the starting, is already conquered.
It's a brilliant hack.
It is. And Fogg even classifies these tiny habits based on their growth potential. He calls them blade, shrub, and tree.
Okay, interesting names. The source suggests we should focus heavily on blades and shrubs because they're more robust. Can you define those for us?
Yeah, so a blade habit is small, and it's not really designed to grow big, but if you have many of them together, they form a powerful system.
Like what?
Like taking a daily vitamin or putting your keys in the exact same spot every single time you walk in the door. Small things.
Okay, and a shrub.
A shrub starts tiny, and it's meant to grow to a useful size. So that's like starting with flossing 1 tooth, and it grows into flossing all your teeth. Or studying for 1 minute grows into 20 minutes. These are really easy to form to maintain.
And the tree.
That's the big one. That's the massive goal. Exercising for an hour every day, writing a book.
So why are tree habits so risky if you try to do them too quickly?
This is where we get into what's called the vicious cycle of failure.
Ooh.
If you try to push a tree habit to its full size too quickly, like trying to run 5 miles on your very first day, you create massive friction.
Yeah, and pain.
And pain. So when you inevitably fail, or you skip a day because you're just too exhausted, you experience self-blame and guilt and frustration. Those are all negative emotions.
Right.
And that negative feedback completely undermines the essential positive reward, that dopamine hit that you need for reinforcement. You basically break the roots of automaticity before they can even take hold.
So the takeaway is that changing many small, successful behaviors is a much safer, more robust investment for long-term lifestyle change.
It's a much better bet. So since that after cue is so essential for, leveraging the brain's existing efficiency, let's look at the best practical strategy for locking that cue in place.
Let's do it.
It's called habit stacking.
Okay, habit stacking. This is where we stop relying on a timer or just our memory, and we start relying on those strong, pre-existing neural connections we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
It's essentially piggybacking a new behavior onto an old automatic one.
Precisely. It's a specialized technique, it was formalized by James Clear, that uses an established automatic behavior as the trigger for the new one. You're splicing a new line directly into an established electrical grid in your brain.
Wow.
And the core formula is so simple. After current habit, I will new habit. You can also use before.
Okay, let's look at some specific examples from the source material to show how this works. Because I think the specificity is key here, right? Ambiguity just kills the stack.
It's the enemy of habit formation. So let's say your goal is to practice a language. Instead of a vague goal like, I will study Spanish tonight.
Which never happens.
Right. You would say something like, after I open my refrigerator to get my dinner, I will immediately open my flashcard app and review 5 words.
Oh, that's so specific. The trigger is the physical action of opening the fridge door.
It's unmistakable. Or here's another one. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. The old habit is taking off your shoes, which you do every day. The new habit is putting on different clothes.
That's so efficient. I love the idea of sequence chaining, too, where you use the completion of one new habit as the cue for the next one.
Yes.
It creates this, seamless routine that just flows and requires less and less cognitive effort.
Absolutely. You can turn a collection of individual difficult tasks into one smooth, inevitable routine. Think about tidying up in the evening.
Okay.
You could build a sequence chain like this. After I finish eating dinner, I will put my plate directly into the dishwasher. That's habit 1.
Got it.
Then, after I put my dishes away, I will immediately wipe down the counter. That's habit 2, triggered by habit 1.
We're like this.
And then after I wipe down the counter, I will set out my coffee mug and my vitamin for tomorrow morning.
That sequence is, it's logically bulletproof. But what happens if one link breaks? If I'm rushing and I skip wiping the counter, does the whole chain fall apart the next day?
That's a great question, and that's the benefit of keeping the habits tiny or at least manageable. If one link breaks, you don't panic. You don't blame yourself.
Okay.
You just acknowledge the break and you restart the chain at the next opportunity. Because the behaviors are small, the failure isn't catastrophic. The goal is, say, 90% consistency, not 100% perfection.
And all of that goes back to avoiding ambiguity. If the cue is vague, the habit will be inconsistent.
Totally. The source gives a really clear contrast. Instead of saying, when I take a break for lunch, I will do 10 push-ups, which is unclear. When is the break? Where are you? The stack should be highly physical and specific. When I physically close my laptop for lunch, I will immediately do 10 push-ups right next to my desk. The time, the place, and the physical action are all built into the cue. It's almost impossible to miss your chance to act.
We've established that willpower is a pretty poor way to form habits, but we still need something to keep us going, right?
Yeah.
Especially once the initial excitement fades.
We do.
And that brings us to the crucial difference between motivation and discipline.
This is such a critical distinction. The source puts it beautifully. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the engine.
Ooh, I like that.
Motivation is that feeling that drives you to start something. It's often temporary, it's influenced by external things, like watching an inspirational video. It's the emotional high.
And discipline.
Discipline is the skill of consistency. It's the ability to follow through on your commitments, even when you face difficulties, even when you face temptations, and especially...
It's actually when you don't feel like it.
Especially when you don't feel like it. Discipline is independent of your mood. It's the muscle that keeps the engine running when the spark of motivation is long gone.
So motivation gets me to sign up for a class, but discipline is what makes me actually attend the lecture when I feel tired or I'm distracted.
Exactly. And the good news, according to the sources, is that discipline is not something you're born with. It's not innate. It can be developed and trained, just like a muscle.
How so?
Every time you consistently use self-control, that capacity for self-regulation gets a little bit stronger.
And this is where the work of Roy F. Baumeister is so essential. He showed that self-control, or willpower, functions as a single domain general resource.
Yes.
Let's elaborate on that, because the implications of it being a single resource are profound.
They really are. What it means is that every high-level mental task you do, whether it's resisting a chocolate cookie, focusing on a complex tax form, restraining your anger during a disagreement, or making a difficult life choice, they all draw from the exact same battery of cognitive energy.
So it's not specialized. There isn't a food-resisting muscle and a separate focus muscle.
Not at all. It's one single resource. If you spend your energy controlling your thoughts in the morning, you will have less energy left to control your impulses in the evening.
Wow. So if I spend all morning resisting the urge to check social media while I'm at work, I am actively depleting the energy I'm going to need later in the afternoon to write a difficult report.
Yes.
Or even just to choose a healthy dinner instead of ordering pizza.
That is the core finding. Your willpower gets tired just like a muscle after heavy lifting. And that fatigue leads us directly to this huge challenge in our modern lives: decision fatigue. The resource is finite.
But before we get to fatigue, I want to reemphasize that winning strategy you mentioned. The idea of playing offense rather than defense with your self-control.
That is the pro move.
Yeah.
This is what people with high self-control actually do. They don't have more willpower than the rest of us.
Really?
No. They don't constantly struggle to resist temptation. They use their willpower in advance to set up routines and habits that guide them to the right outcomes automatically.
Let's use the pantry example again. Playing defense is what most of us do.
Right.
It's standing guard at the pantry door, trying to fight the craving for snacks every single time I walk into the kitchen. That's a constant battle.
It's exhausting. And playing offense is using your willpower once at the grocery store to never buy the snacks in the first place.
Or using environmental design to eliminate the queue entirely.
Exactly. They use their initial willpower to establish good habits and break bad ones so they don't have to fight these daily battles and risk depleting their one precious battery.
Okay, so here's where it gets really, really interesting. The source of that drained, can't think anymore feeling at the end of the day.
Yes.
We're talking about decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue describes how the quality of our decision-making gets worse and worse as we make more choices throughout the day.
It's our cognitive abilities just getting worn out.
Exactly. It happens when our mental resources are depleted after making numerous decisions. It's also known as choice overload.
And the sheer volume is what exhausts us. The source estimates the average person makes about, 35,000 decisions a day?
35,000 decisions a day. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. And when the brain gets that tired, it starts looking for shortcuts. It wants to conserve energy, so it switches off critical thinking.
Right.
What are the key symptoms we should recognize in ourselves?
Well, when fatigue hits, the brain seeks these shortcuts. And this usually results in 4 main symptoms. The first is procrastination or avoidance, just putting the decision off.
I can't deal with it now.
The second is indecision or analysis paralysis. You just get stuck. And the third, and this is a big one, is impulsivity.
Making rash decisions.
Making rash decisions. I know exactly why I impulsively bought that expensive gadget online or ordered junk food at 8 p.m. It's decision fatigue hitting my wallet and my diet.
The source gives some pretty shocking examples of how this depletion affects our choices in the real world. Let's start with the one that really cemented this research. The radish cookie experiment.
This experiment was so clever. It was brilliant because it forced one group of participants to use their willpower in a very specific way.
How did they do it?
They brought hungry people into a lab that was filled with the delicious smell of freshly baked cookies and chocolates.
Oh, that's mean.
Very mean. And they told one group they had to resist the temptation of all these delicious treats, and instead, they had to force themselves to eat bland, boring radishes.
That requires some intense, active self-control.
A lot of it. Then, after that initial act of willpower, they gave both groups an entirely separate task. They had to try and solve these difficult and actually unsolvable geometric puzzles.
And they were designed to test persistence, right? How long would people keep trying?
Exactly. And the result was this clear causal link. The group that had to resist the cookies and eat the radishes, they quit the difficult, frustrating puzzle on average 10 minutes faster than the control groups who hadn't used up their self-control.
10 minutes faster.
Resisting that initial temptation took a measurable amount of cognitive energy out of them. It literally reduced their ability to persevere later in a completely unrelated mental task. The resource is truly domain general and very limited.
That is concrete proof that trying harder early in the day makes it genuinely, physically harder to perform unrelated mental tasks later.
It really is.
Now let's move to the real-world high-stakes example. The Israeli judicial study involving parole judges. This showed that even professional, rational decision-making is vulnerable to this fatigue.
This study was incredible. They analyzed thousands of parole hearing decisions. And you have to understand, granting parole is a complex, high-stakes decision.
It requires huge cognitive effort. You're weighing risk against potential for rehabilitation.
A huge effort. Denying parole, however, is the safer, easier default decision. It's the decision of least resistance. If you're tired, you just say no.
And the data was shocking.
It was. The likelihood of a prisoner receiving parole dropped, well, it plummeted as the day wore on. In the early morning, when the judges were fresh, they granted parole about 70% of the time.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
But by the late afternoon, that likelihood had dropped to around 10%.
10%.
The judges, facing depletion from all the earlier decisions, just defaulted to the safest, easiest option: denial.
But the amazing part is that the pattern was broken at certain points in the day.
That's the craziest part. The likelihood of granting parole spiked right back up immediately after a food break.
So after lunch.
Absolutely. After the judges had a sandwich and a banana, their decision-making capacity was literally restored. The study strongly suggested that their ability to make a tough decision was directly linked to their glucose levels. Glucose provides the energy for complex brain functions, and just replenishing it provided the cognitive resource they needed to engage in the tougher, non-default decision of granting parole.
So the lesson isn't just to remember to eat lunch. It's to realize that our decision-making capacity is a real physical resource.
It is.
And that's why so many successful leaders strategically manage it, like Barack Obama wearing the same color suits every day.
He and others, like Mark Zuckerberg, they've both claimed to wear essentially a uniform to eliminate all those mundane, low-stakes decisions.
What should I wear? What should I eat for breakfast?
Exactly. They conserve their finite mental energy for the truly critical, high-stakes choices that actually define their careers. It's a calculated act of playing offense against depletion. So, since the evidence is just overwhelming that our willpower is limited and it's prone to depletion, the most effective defense is to shift the battleground.
We have to stop fighting our brain.
Stop fighting it and start working with it by designing our environment so we don't need willpower in the first place.
And our environment is everything around us. It's not just our house, it's our physical spaces, our technology, and even the social structures we're in. We need to engineer those spaces to make good habits easy and bad habits hard.
To do that effectively, we need to understand two key concepts from behavioral science: choice architecture and stimulus control.
Okay, let's start with choice architecture. What's that?
Choice architecture is how you arrange the options in a specific setting to influence decisions. Think about a school cafeteria.
Right.
They'll put the fruit and the salads right at the beginning of the line at eye level, and they'll hide the cookies and the cake at the end, maybe on a lower shelf. They are influencing choices without actually restricting them. They're designing the physical layout to encourage a certain behavior.
So choice architecture is how the environment sets up the options for everyone. What about stimulus control? How is that different?
Stimulus control is more personal. It modifies the external cues of your existing habits. So if you know you have a habit of grabbing a snack every single time you walk into the break room at work.
That's the existing habit cue.
Right. Stimulus control would be replacing the dish of high-calorie snacks with a big bowl of healthy options like apples. You're leveraging that existing cue entering the room, but you're guiding the action towards a better outcome.
The ultimate goal that unites both of these is a term I love: friction engineering. What exactly does that imply?
Friction engineering is simply the act of deliberately manipulating how much effort an action requires. We want to reduce the activation energy needed to start a good habit by making it visible and accessible.
And for bad habits.
Conversely, we want to increase the friction required for a bad habit. We make it invisible and difficult to do.
Okay, let's get practical. The source gives 5 specific ways we can apply this. Let's start with the first one. Remove counterproductive cues.
This is the pure offense strategy we talked about. If late-night snacking is your problem, the best solution is to just remove the snacks from your house completely.
No willpower needed if there's nothing to resist.
Exactly. Or, if you can't remove them, you place them in a spot that requires high friction, like on the top shelf of the garage, forcing you to go outside and get a ladder.
The sheer effort required to get the ladder is often enough to stop the impulsive behavior before it even starts. It saves your willpower.
It does. If you watch too much TV, you could avoid your lounge zone until your important goals are done, or even just take the batteries out of the remote and put them in another room. Stop the cue from initiating the undesired habit chain in the first place.
Okay, what about the second point? Giving as much support as possible to the cue you're trying to condition.
This means investing in tools that directly eliminate the barriers to your desired habit. If you want to start eating fast food for lunch, you could buy high-quality meal prep containers or a really nice lunchbox that you're excited to use.
You're supporting the habit of meal prep.
You are. If outdoor exercise is a barrier because of the weather, maybe you purchase a walking pad for under your desk or a gym membership that's super close to your home. The investment has to directly reduce friction in the habit chain.
Okay, third point. Making use of constructive prompts.
Prompts are basically visual nudges designed to trigger the cue for a good habit. They can be physical, like laying out your running shoes and your gym clothes right next to your bed the night before.
So the path to getting dressed is effortless in the morning.
Effortless. Or they can be environmental, like keeping a bowl of fruit on the counter or healthy snacks at eye level in the fridge. That visibility significantly increases the probability you'll choose them, just because they are the first thing you see.
Fourth, we have to look at eliminating choices to narrow your focus. This is about creating a setting where the desired action is the only available default.
Absolutely. If you want the default to win, then make the default the action you want to take. You could remove all liquid calories from your home entirely. That way you're forced to default to water.
There's no other choice to make.
Right. If you want to be more active while working from home, you could literally put a stationary bike where your most comfortable armchair used to be for a week. By removing the other options, you ensure the only decision required is the execution of the desired habit, not whether to do it or not.
And finally, the fifth point is to take extra note of our daily routes and patterns. We often don't realize how much our physical journey through the world determines our habits.
Our routes trigger such powerful cues. Think about your route home from work. If you always drive past the bakery, your brain is cued every single day to think about a treat.
I never thought about it that way.
Tweaking your route, even subtly, like deciding to walk to a destination instead of driving, or just driving a different route that takes you past the park instead of the fast food place, that can propel you closer to your habit goals without requiring an extra ounce of willpower. You have designed your own success. So while environmental design tackles the physical space, we can also use social support and reward structuring to lock in consistency, especially when our motivation is low. Let's start with the power of accountability partnerships.
Accountability buddies. They're everywhere now, in business, fitness, education. Why is that social dynamic of having to report back to another person so effective at driving consistency?
Well, the benefits are really rooted in a positive external pressure. First, they provide mutual support and encouragement, especially when you're facing setbacks.
Which we all do.
We all do. But crucially, they ensure consistent progress because just knowing you have to report back provides this powerful extra layer of motivation. It makes you push through tasks you might otherwise postpone.
It reduces the likelihood that you'll give in to that avoidance we talked about, the kind caused by decision fatigue.
Exactly. It externalizes the commitment.
So what are the best practices for setting up a successful partnership?
The foundation is clear and honest communication about your goals and your expectations. You need shared goals for that sense of camaraderie, and you absolutely must agree on regular check-ins.
How often?
It could be weekly, bi-weekly, whatever works. But in those check-ins, you celebrate the wins, and you offer constructive, kind feedback on the roadblocks. And using apps or other digital platforms can really streamline this whole tracking process.
I was really fascinated by the example in the source of a platform called Stick, which uses financial commitments.
Oh yeah, Stick uses something called a commitment contract. It's intense. Users commit a certain amount of money, which they will lose, they forfeit it, if they fail to meet their stated goal. And the psychology gets even more intense because the platform lets them designate that money to go to an anti-charity.
An anti-charity.
An organization whose mission they actively dislike or oppose. So the motivation to avoid losing money, especially to a cause they hate, becomes an extremely powerful psychological motivator.
That's tapping into loss aversion in a major way. Okay, let's pivot now to a different technique, one that links that discipline skill we discussed with immediate pleasure.
Yes, temptation bundling.
This technique is fantastic because it uses the allure of an immediate reward to increase your engagement with a difficult task.
Temptation bundling is pairing a desired activity, the temptation, with a less desirable one, the task you feel you should do. And the key is that the enjoyable activity becomes the prerequisite for, or happens during, the unappealing one.
Like a fitness app that will only let you listen to a specific audiobound or podcast while you are actually running.
Bravely, exactly. This technique is so clever because it addresses two major psychological forces that we need to manage for long-term habits. The first one is the goal gradient effect.
Okay, refresh my memory on that one.
We know from research that our motivation increases the closer we get to a reward.
Right.
When you bundle the temptation, the pleasure of the podcast starts immediately when the difficult task of running starts. And as you continue the task, you're constantly getting closer to the next interesting part of the podcast, which keeps that motivational gradient high and keeps your engagement continuous.
And the second concept it addresses is hedonic adaptation. Why does that make a big, distant reward less motivating over time?
Hedonic adaptation is our tendency to return to a stable baseline level of happiness pretty quickly after a positive event. So if you tell yourself, if I run 50 miles this month, I'll buy myself a new expensive shirt.
That reward is really distant.
It's distant, and its motivational power just diminishes as the days go by. And by the time you actually get the shirt, the feeling of satisfaction fades pretty quickly.
But by bundling the reward, the motivation is immediate and it's constant.
Precisely. You're constantly getting these small, immediate dopamine hits from enjoying the show while you're running, and that counters hedonic adaptation. The immediate paired reward makes the required task feel less like a chore and more like a necessary stepping stone to satisfaction, which keeps the habit engaging over the long run.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of material today. I mean, from the physical structure of our brains to parole judges and strategic uniform choices.
We really have.
Let's quickly summarize our 3 key takeaways for everyone listening to really nail down how to achieve long-term consistency.
Okay, number 1, focus on design, not willpower. Habits are mechanical. They're hardwired into our brains by strengthening neural paths. Use habit stacking to link new, tiny behaviors, your blades and shrubs, onto existing, specific routines.
And always celebrate immediately to reinforce that neural pathway.
Always.
Okay, number 2, discipline is your engine. Motivation is an inconsistent spark that always fades. Discipline is the school of consistency that keeps you going when that spark is gone.
And it can be trained like a muscle. By forcing yourself to do small, non-preferred acts daily, you are building that muscle.
And finally, number 3.
Conserve your decisions. Decision fatigue is a real physical depletion of your cognitive energy. You have to play offense, use environmental design or friction engineering to automate or eliminate choices.
And save your finite willpower for the things that truly matter.
Remember the judges and the vital role of that glucose. Your brain needs fuel.
So what does this all mean for us? What's the ultimate actionable takeaway for our listener who's struggling with this?
I think if you struggle with consistency, you should remember this really powerful concept of reparenting yourself as an adult.
Reparenting yourself.
You are the architect of your own neural pathways. By consistently choosing the small, right, high-friction thing, you are strengthening your internal self-regulatory system over time. You're building that discipline muscle.
So every small success is an act of internal rewiring.
It is. It proves that you don't need to try harder. You just need to design smarter.
That's a powerful final thought. It's never too late to start that rewiring process, using small, easy actions to build real, lasting success.
And for that, we have our micro challenge.
Let's hear it.
Your small task for today is to identify just one tiny existing habit you already do automatically, and then stack one blade habit onto it. Make the new habit take less than the 60 seconds.
Give us an example.
For example, after I put my phone on the charger tonight, I will stretch for 30 seconds. Or, after my first sip of coffee, I will think of one thing I'm grateful for.
Make it so easy you can't possibly say no.
Exactly.
Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into how to crack the code for creating habits.
And remember to subscribe to English Unlimited podcast for more deep dives every week.
I'm your Charlie. See you next time.
And I'm Jane.